In this video, we will witness great feats as Roxy mastered the power of the sun while fighting to save her sister. God Odin, sitting on the throne, was the governor of the world. His will was absolute, both for heaven and for Olympus. However, even such a powerful being was afraid of something, the day in the prophecy when he would be overthrown. According to the prophecy, on the day of Ragnarok, the world will plunge into darkness, but it will remain reliable because the flames of the giants will continue to shine. To avoid such an outcome, the great god began to do everything possible. He stopped Fenrir and defeated all his enemies. The world serpent threatened to destroy the world order. Then it was decided to seal it in the depths of the waters. And Hel, who was nicknamed the bringer of death, ended up in the afterlife so that Odin would definitely not meet his end. Realizing that his safety was now at its best, Odin decided to start a battle with the ice giants. There was just one problem. There were many more giants than people, so the battle was by no means easy. The eternal battle was so grueling that almost all the gods were tired of it. There were not enough golden apples. Realizing that at this rate they would lose, Odin decided to turn to the goddess of life Idun to help. Idun accepted the offer and helped the other gods become stronger. Now the battles have become much easier. But something terrible happened. Ridicule of the gods led to the fact that the goddess of life and spring was struck by a blow. She could no longer help the army of great beings, and the punishment of her death would be as destructive as the ghost of Sparta. As soon as the goddess of light disappeared, the bright and warm skies turned into icy ridges. The blizzard was extremely harsh. Not everyone could survive in it, and after a while they came from this cloud. Everyone was sure that all the living giants had been killed, but the eternal frost revived one giant after another. However, they were similar to the old ice giants only in nature. Their appearance and power were different. The opponents who now threatened Odin and his army turned out to be much more dangerous. This was the beginning of the great and last war, gods and giants, but on whose side will fate be? Not many actually understood what exactly Odin had done. His sin was great. The angry creatures were now a real threat, and not a horror story for the little ones. Somehow among them was Rikiya Yotsubashi from My Hero Academia. In a world where spring died, in a world that was saturated with battles, there were still brave souls. Creatures are ready to put everything on the line to protect what is dear to them, but do they have the strength? Meanwhile, we are transported to the busy streets of some town. A girl comes out of a medieval building. She was pleased that she was finally able to buy a gift for a certain Lila. The hope that the gift would evoke a lot of emotions warmed the beauty greatly. She was waiting for this moment. The heroine's name was Roxy. The girl waiting for her was very surprised by her friend's speed. These girls were the creatures that would dare to challenge winter, but they did not yet know what was coming to them. The beauty with orange hair was called Lila. She was in charge of many books, giving them to others to read. It seems as if nothing happened at all when you watch such peaceful moments in life. The girls' books seemed very interesting to the townspeople. There was not so much demand for them, but the quality was high. A little girl who was standing not far from their point noticed an interesting book and decided to ask. Then Lila explained that the book the girl had chosen was not for sale. It was currently being studied. It was a special book for girls, a much more valuable thing than behelit or gems. The book was illustrated by Lila's mother, so it had special meaning for them. Even though the seller refused to give it at all, she could show pictures. The little girl was very happy about the proposal, but Roxy was indignant because even she could not read. The fairy tale told about a certain golden child who was able to escape from the sun. It all started with a boy. He lived in a sunny castle, and his hair was as beautiful as gold. The eyes sparkled brighter than any precious stone, but the guy didn't care about that. He was interested in the world outside. Seeing a light in the sky, the young man turned to him with words of help. He really wanted to see the world. However, the sun said that the outside world is too dangerous for the guy now. He will simply die in vain. Giants and gods, their wars do not frighten the young man, because even a bird, having grown wiser, dreams of being behind the cage. Realizing that everything in his life depends only on his decisions and strength, the guy decided to run away. No castle walls, strong doors, or even guards could restrain his desire. Even without Jake, Finn was ready to go on his travels in search of something new and wonderful. The fairy tale was so incredible that while reading it, everyone was amazed by the story. Even the idea itself was incredible. But Lila quickly stopped the demonstration, saying that that was all for today. Such meanness greatly hurt the baby and Roxy. They were unhappy and wanted to know the story to the end. The little girl was worried about the boy with golden hair, but Lila said that he lives as long as his heart lives. The story was truly amazing, and the orange-haired beauty promised to show more next time. But Lila spent so long calming their young visitor that she missed the moment when Roxy stole the book. The friend didn't mind letting Roxy finish reading the story, but she was very surprised when she discovered a strange object. The main character began to worry even more, because the gift could not be opened in such an environment. Lila insisted that her friend not worry about the little things. They should hurry because the sun was already setting. The road was not close, but the girls were not so simple either. They are fast and resilient. While traveling through the streets, Roxy noticed the majestic castle of the god Odin. In this citadel, there were many children of the gods. The main character was interested in whether they could escape, like the boy from history. The children of the gods lived a life full of joy and wealth. It is unlikely that they would ever see the other side. Having reached some building no less large than the castle, the girls were not even exhausted. The road was by no means close, but the girls hurried as best they could. Otherwise, they could have suffered greatly. Roxy and Lila handed over the pass. This was probably not the first time this had happened, but the girls were late. The commandant scolded his girlfriends, explaining that their schedule could not be paused like in Dota 2. The situation was quite simple. Being just a minute late was not significant, so Lila was not worried. But Roxy, in turn, was very angry because they were being reprimanded for a minimal offense. While the beauties promised not to be late again, a piercing scream sounded throughout the entire area. It could be heard not only in the square where the heroines had previously sold books, but even in Odin's castle. It looked like something terrible was about to happen. People ran home in panic, and the commandant hurried to close the doors. Leela promised to leave as soon as things got better, but the man sent them inside the building. He was not interested in words. Now was the time when it was necessary to take confident actions. Lila had never entered the premises so quickly and wanted to show what Tyson's tomb meant. But it was impossible to teach the man a lesson because the gates closed right before the girl's eyes. Roski didn't like the commandant either. It was even a little cruel, but he helped them. It seemed that the girl had a dangerous sortie ahead of her. They began to equip various items with protection from the cold. This was business as usual for them. What lay ahead was no longer mysterious or scary. Standing near the entrance, Lila asked her friend if she was ready, but it was worth doing something before leaving. Roxy put her ear to the ground and was able to pinpoint the enemy's location with pinpoint accuracy. The friend noted that the brunette was used to analyzing information with a calm head. Having a plan of action, the girls hurried to leave this corridor, heading into the wasteland filled with snow and ice. The extinct frost giants were not half as terrible as those that now lived here. Even if our heroines were not strong, it seems to me that they have a serious test ahead. To protect the inhabitants of the kingdom of the gods from monsters, Odin created barriers called the Word of Power, Shield. Under each such sphere lived many inhabitants. Many of them had already forgotten what the world outside looked like. Thanks to special equipment, the guys managed to understand in which direction to move, even despite the snowstorm. Roxy's personality led her to lead the way, ignoring danger and eager for answers. And Lila thought primarily about safety and effectiveness, so she often saved her friend. A second before the strike, a flash of lightning allowed him to dodge. This time the monster was huge. Much larger than an ordinary giant, it was a real giant. From one impact on the ground, the nearby landscape changed. Cracks spread throughout the area. Such shaking took the friends by surprise, so they lost their balance and fell. They were ready to see anything, but it seems they managed to learn very little in this world. The enemy they encountered was hardly too tough for the girls, but it was still important to do something. The giant from the beginning of history wielded a huge spear, many notches and a body covered with a reddish growth. The heroines were hardly noticeable against his background. The games were over. Now it was time for real tests. A sea of energy poured into the monster's heart, as if he were an artificial person created around a core made of the philosopher's stone. An incredible monster of natural alchemy, the Goliath of their world, he planned to destroy the shield with one blow. However, divine power turned out to be too much for even such a strong opponent. The indestructible dome of the gods provided its protection only to the best among the best. From such a strong blow against a strong barrier, the spear of the frost monster shattered into many fragments. One of them fell not far from Roxy. The beauty was clearly shocked by what was happening. The second fragment flew straight at her. It looked like the goddess of luck had turned away from her today. Probably now the girl will not be able to complete the list of 100 things to do before her death. But she was not alone in this icy hell. Lila came to the rescue again, managing to repel the flying fragment. A precise blow allowed the particle to break into even smaller fragments. She was angry with the monster. Her eyes exuded power, and her fists struck no worse than a hammer or mace. It seems that Lila was not so simple. But even though she managed to save her friend, the girl was not omnipotent, so the broken piece of the weapon wounded her. It is likely that the situation became even worse after this situation, but Lila tried not to show it. Roxy was very worried about her friend, so she continued to scream her name, unable to change anything. The friend asked the brunette to run and not look back. Now the most important thing was to escape. The monster was preparing to make another run, and who knows how it would turn out in the end. Therefore, the girls continued to run despite the injury Lila received. After some time, the Nakama were able to get to a safe place. The sounds of the giant were no longer heard. However, the girls were in no hurry to come out of hiding. They carefully checked everything. The adventure turned out to be much more dangerous than the friends initially expected. As soon as Lila's wound was taken care of while Roxy was trying to examine the girl's hand, a stranger called them. The boy who escaped from the 7 deadly sins was worried about his friends. It seems he went out to meet them. As soon as Dino saw his girlfriend's hand, his soul began to go somewhere upward. No matter how much time passed, the girls did not return. The guy was very worried and decided to go out to check. Even though the wound from the giant was not very serious, and Lila assured that she was fine, a lot of blood was lost. The girl's wounds magically healed on their own, but Dino insisted that next time she act more carefully. Roxy was quite amazed at such a miracle, but insisted that the girl take care of her body. The guys lived outside the domes, so they were in constant danger. I would like to change everything. However, in order to enter this circle of the elite, large donations must be paid. The government called it mercy, but hardly anyone believes that this is not simple robbery. The problem was that even after paying the required amount, it was difficult to get inside. The girl's mother will be ready to destroy the girl if she finds out that she was inside the central bath. Dino was very surprised by this news, and Roxy wondered why, but he only asked for forgiveness. After a short silence, the young man added that the mother wanted to go look for the girls in the neighboring village. However, it seems that she had already returned and was meditating on top of the roof, looking out for her daughter. Once a woman sees them, she will definitely have to save herself, but the mother's anger is doubly terrible. Even though the beauty couldn't use Hadouken or curse techniques, finding a way to scold the girls wasn't hard to find. The woman was angry that they promised to go to the neighboring village, but no one saw them there. Dino gave away the girls' secret, telling them exactly where they were. Lila and Roxy decided that they would not tell the guy anything else. Then Roxy tried to explain that people from the center are the best clients. They have a lot of money, and the ban on visiting this place seemed strange, and Lila was even strong enough for battles. The mother understood all this, but the girls promised to avoid places where Odin visited. The woman really did not like the supreme god. Noticing the girl's injury, the mother asked if everything was okay with Lila, and Roxy promised that they would not do this in the future. After concluding a non-aggression pact, the family was finally assembled. Despite the seriousness, the mother loved her daughters. All's well that ends well. The girl definitely needs to learn to assess the situation soberly, but they survived. Dino stood aside and then the family called him to hug them. He was glad that he was forgiven after all. A little later, sitting at the dinner table, the woman suggested we go to a neighboring village tomorrow. Despite the relatively poor life, you had to be able to have fun and relax. Otherwise, it was impossible. While Mom and Lila were meditating, Roxy and Dino decided to go somewhere. Their adventure promised to be interesting. The brunette said that she warned her mother, but as soon as they went outside, the truth emerged. Lila was not very happy that her sister was skipping all the meditations, because this way she would not become stronger. To somehow get out of this situation, the girl used all her knowledge in the field of lying, but it didn't work out well for her. Mom said that Roxy was going to bake a cake. The brunette was unhappy that her secret had been revealed. Lila asked me to bake her a cream cake because she loved it even more than our videos. Roxy wondered why no one in their family knew how to keep secrets. It was like some kind of curse. The journey did not take much time, and then the guys started cooking. The process was exciting, even if everything was done according to the book. But thanks to the guys' skills, we managed to bake a beautiful cake. After finishing the preparations, the guys sat by the window talking and just enjoying the day. The girl decided to show off what gift she bought for her sister. It looked like she was going to like it. Dino was interested to see what gift the brunette chose, but she said that she also bought something for the guy. The young man loved to read books. He was sure that knowledge is the greatest power, so the hidden book was a very good gift. He thanked the girl for the gift of a valuable item, of course not a book to repair, but he would take care of it. The gift was really cool. Dino wanted to accompany his friend home. It was already late. However, Roxy said that she is the fastest resident of this settlement. She will quickly get home by herself. Dino's house was not so far away, and he also didn't like the cold, so the girl insisted on her option. The cake turned out great. The blonde hoped that Lila would also think about it in this way. Roxy promised that everything would be great because they worked together to prepare it. These words gave the young man a little more confidence. He agreed and wished good luck to the guest. When leaving, the brunette asked the guy not to be late the next day. She had a box and a lantern in her hands. The guy's smile, which illuminated everything like rays of sunshine, was short-lived as he looked after Roxy. His true personality only began to emerge when he was completely alone. The eyes shone with hellish fire in the girl's words, which meant that they were friends, greatly amused the guy. The guy thought that happiness is like a flame. The eyes and heart burn while we are close to our loved ones. However, light will not always rule over darkness. Soon Fenrir will swallow all the light illuminating this mortal world. Standing in his own house, the guy looked at the flaring flames, as if this was the meaning of all things. It was not an accident or someone's trick. The plan was put into effect. There was no point in playing the role further. The guy's eyes made it clear that on this hunt he was a predator, not prey. Meanwhile, the picture that caught Roxy in front of her spoke of how much she would lose today. Whether this can be called the beginning of the end, or whether nothing ever began, the questions kept spinning in the girl's head. The mother was seriously injured, and the sister was in the hands of a man who looked very much like a villain. Despair had never whispered in the girl's ear as loudly as it did now. Apparently the girl had angered God. The man she had called her friend for so long walked past her, the scale gradually reaching 100% stress. Dino showed who he really is. The coat of arms on his back spoke of the mission that he carries. At that moment, everything came together like a real puzzle. Roxy realized how naive she was. Coming closer, the blonde bowed before the one who easily defeated the woman and her daughter. The man standing 10 meters from the main character was Odin. But why is he doing this? The more Roxy thought about what happened, the more confusing and complicated it became. A few tens of minutes ago, my mother was chopping wood so as not to freeze at night, a common routine. Lila was very late, so Mom wanted to check if everything was okay with her daughter. While she was wondering where the girl might have gone, a familiar voice was heard behind her. One said it had been 15 years since they last met. Finally, we found out the name of the girl's mother. Asha understood the danger she was in. Just a moment was enough for the highest of the gods to destroy the stone wall. The blue flame was a reminder of old wounds, of a day the woman wanted to forget. One came for the child. He was glad to know that everything seemed to be fine with him. Asha, without hesitation for a second, was ready to strike, but it would hardly be possible to defeat the main boss now. As soon as the blade reached the god's neck, it shattered into thousands of fragments, as if there was a barrier around Odin's entire body. It seems that the man was expecting something like this. He was not going to hold back and showed his power. Trying to protect her mother, Lila jumped on Odin with a log, as if she were some kind of Thorkel. However, it seemed that the supreme god's power was so great that he was not at all bothered by what was happening. The girl's rage was at its limit. Her damage was significantly increased. She wanted to deliver this blow. But Odin managed to evade such a careless attack with just one step. He did it as if he was giving way. Trying to protect her mother, Lila stood in front of her, with a hellish flame raging behind her, devouring everything it touched. The man was glad to see the girl. He called her full name. Even if God did nothing, his pressure was terrifying. One had only to look at Odin to understand that he really stands at the center of this world. Undeniably the strongest, a king among kings, this creature had many nicknames. Dino was not related to Roxy and Lila, but they had many happy memories. The oil in the lamp ran out soon after the brunette entered the forest. Negligence and laziness played a role. Finding the road without light was not easy. There was nothing to do but slowly move forward to look for landmarks. Dino was like an older brother to the girls, but it is unlikely that he had similar feelings towards them. Roxy was amazed that the imposter was not thrown into space, and he was among them all this time. Asha couldn't believe it either, but Odin confirmed everyone's guesses. It's impossible to hide from divine retribution. The words of the supreme god and her former friend were imprinted in her mind, as if someone had brought them out by force. Every word destroyed all the memories created over many years, good and bad. It seemed as if those moments were the same happiness, an unattainable ideal that lay right at the hands of the family. But everything turned out to be a simple lie. The friendly guy with a wide smile and a kind heart, it seemed, was Odin's henchman. The longer Odin looked at Lila, the more her growth was visible. A lot of time had passed since then. A clock suspiciously reminiscent of Big Ben struck 12 o'clock. The ringing was loud enough to be heard in the wilderness. Asha asked to stop what Odin was planning to do. He removed the bandana from Lila's head. A flower that was as bright as the sun began to shine for the first time in a long time. Today was the girl's birthday. The mark that appeared on her forehead spoke volumes. One hastened to congratulate Lila on becoming older. Heavenly light began to envelop the girl from her feet. Second by second, this light grew further and further, changing the essence of the girl. Then Odin intervened and greeted the one who not only inherited the will of Idun, the goddess of light, but also the person who was her direct descendant. Roxy could not believe what she saw and heard. One is standing right in front of a girl who is slowly turning into a tree. It was amazing how long Asha could hide the truth from the girl, a story that every child had heard. The golden apple of Idun, a sacred artifact much more powerful than the apple of Eden that the assassins were chasing. Even though the goddess of light and life herself perished, the war of gods and giants continues to go on. The mission was to raise the child Idun and turn him into a new fruit that bestows strength and life. One was fair, so he gave the girl some time to live as a person. But now the golden child's mission had finally come, and now the family had a choice to make. Previously, Asha's hair was shining like light. This was during the girl's life in the castle. Now the mother can decide whether to receive the protection of the great god or resist and lose everything. Moreover, in Odin's castle, Lila will be able to get the best that there is in this world. The man was already planning to return, but Roxy did not plan to accept her fate. The brunette could hardly do anything to such a strong creature, But she didn't want to sit in silence either. The girl's family quickly realized how fatal a mistake it was to remind about their existence. After thinking a little, Odin remembered a clan that always gave birth to children with black hair. They did not enjoy special respect among the Celestials. Those who were higher called them scum. Before doing anything, the Supreme God turned to Dino and asked if anything had changed in the girl. Then the blonde said that Roxy did not have increased strength or durability. She was a simple person and nothing more. In this case, Odin did not need the brunette. He ordered his pawn to kill the girl. But Leela wasn't going to just watch. She decided to attack the man using the Dragon Slayer's fiery fist. Roxy's value to her sister was far greater than anyone could have imagined. The story of the golden child who escaped from the great sun itself, but this is not so important now. One simply took what he needed, because the girl's words made it clear that she was not his ally. The heart, which will pave the way for its owner as long as it beats, a powerful artifact ended up in Odin's hand. As soon as Lila lost her core, her body, the body of the goddess of light herself, once crumbled into many petals. The core was important, so the Supreme God ordered Dino to take care of it. Roxy knew that if she just stayed silent now, it would probably be the end for everyone. The golden child will be resurrected as long as he has a heart, which means there was still a chance to bring his sister back. The girl's strength never lay in magic. Her main weapon was optimism and confidence. Making the most of her speed, Roxy hurried to obtain the holy core, the heart of the golden child. Her movements were so fast that even Odin and Dino did not react. The girl's eyes glowed golden, as if she were Kirito in moments when he could not be defeated. Odin did not like this situation. He planned to finish everything with one attack. The directed beam moved with incredible speed towards the main character. The force of the blow would have left no chance of survival, but Mother could not lose another dear daughter. Having protected her girl, Asha showed the same mark that Lila had. She is connected with Idun. The woman's golden hair began to glow, and she whispered in Roxy's ear to run and not look back. Once Asha had already run away, but now there was nowhere to run. Accepting her fate, the woman decided to oppose Odin. Roxy was not naive or stupid. She understood that now was not the best time to shed tears. The light of Odin's next attack illuminated everything around, like the moon in the night, cold light against warm light. One gave the order to his subordinate to catch up with the girl, defeat her, and then take the core. While the blue from the Supreme God began to pick up speed, Roxy's legs carried her quite far. Hatred and anger towards Odin has helped Asha live all this time. The final chapter in her story will be written today. Resisting absolute power rather than submitting to it, that is how her daughters remembered her. True, it was too early to write off the woman so easily, because she was able to parry the blow. The ball flew straight towards the Supreme God, but he was hardly worried about this. The explosion of golden light was no weaker than the attack of Odin himself. He did not dodge. But this attack could not even scratch the shield that was around the evil god. Even though the attack itself was not effective, such a weak defense could not stop Asha. Tearing apart the barrier wall as if it were a piece of paper, the woman approached Odin. Roxy felt that something had changed. Her mom. It looked like they wouldn't see each other again. Forgetting about the promise and her mood, the brunette headed towards her mother to try to help her. But as soon as he was distracted, Dino's precise blow went through him like a knife through butter. After defeating Roxy, the army dog tried to take the core back, as his superior had ordered him earlier. The girl's mother stood opposite Odin. He was a little disappointed because he was sure that Asha would be able to repel his attack. The woman was able to pierce the enemy's shoulder, but he in turn took the same core as Lila's. It only took 1 second for all of Odin's wounds to disappear. Their mission completed. That evening, the main character lost everything. The Winter Wasteland took not only her family, but also her friend. Meanwhile, the villain returned to his castle, filled with sunlight as if nothing had happened. One of his followers approached Odin and said that the core of light received from Dino had been stolen. Even though the girl was on the edge of life, even though Dino betrayed them, Roxy still managed to escape. The girl's recovery power was much more significant than that of her mother or sister. The guy kept silent about this, leaving her also Lila's core so that she could bring her dear person back to life. This news greatly changed the plans of the main villain. Unfortunately, the gods do not have search magic, so all the soldiers were raised. It was necessary to return the sacred artifact in any way, regardless of what would have to be sacrificed. Many warriors walked in the direction where, quite recently, Odin almost completely destroyed Roxy's life. But even after examining everything, it was not possible to find the treasured core. The traces of the battle were fresh. It was impossible to hide the traces left due to the wound received. The enemy was following the trail of the brunette. Dino had no intention of running away. He was waiting for Odin to arrive. God praised him for his determination. Everything went exactly according to the boy's plan. It seems that despite what he did, these people were dear to him. The Supreme God was interested in how true the story of his subordinate was. If Odin liked Dino's answers, he would spare him. The boy was a very valuable pawn. However, the blonde asked why the supreme god was taking so long to figure it out, because if he wanted to save himself, he wouldn't lie. It was unusual to hear something like that from a usually reasonable young man. Apparently, Dino had gone crazy. The battle was even more brutal than when Odin confronted Asha. Blue light illuminated the sky for a long time. However, among the countless flashes, other reddish-pink patterns were visible. But despite the fact that Dino was a really strong fighter, his attacks could not even hurt the god. Using his abilities to the maximum and even awakening his Bankai, the blonde could not defeat such a powerful enemy. His blows were strong, even too strong, but it was still not enough. Rage boiled inside Dino. He incredibly valued Asha, Lila, and Roxy. They were his family. The memories gained over the past years cannot be forgotten or thrown away. They were real. But even so, gathering more and more determination with each blow, the blonde could not even scratch Odin. The youth's spear was broken. The supreme god was preparing to strike back to demonstrate the difference. The man's hand was right in front of the young man's face. It was lucky that Odin did not have Mahito's abilities. However, he was still able to use equally destructive abilities without any problems. Soon Odin was already standing next to the lying Dino, who did not want to give up no matter what happened. The blonde, with all his might, grabbed the hand of the supreme god and was not going to let go. He was hired not only for his flexible mind, but also for his strength, which went beyond all limits. The young man offered to choose whose hand would be cut off because he would not let go, but Odin had a different answer. He recognized the guy's strength, but he was even more interested in how long he could hold out. Before defeating Roxy, he whispered to her to go find the Earth Clan. He asked the girl not to forget today. It's a pity that she didn't have a silver watch to write down the date. Lying on the ice floe, Roxy saw how her mother treated the last moment of spring. When the opportunity arose, the brunette ran forward as best she could. The guy wanted the girl to survive no matter what. Hatred or revenge, one of these would push her forward. At least he hoped so, although he planned to play the villain more believably. Although initially his mission was observation, but during the time they spent together, he became truly happy. Roxy's mom, an incredible woman who can find her way by the stars. Dino, who remained reasonable and cool in any situation, no matter how difficult it was. And sister Lila, who had strength, so much strength that she was stronger than even a stone wall. These three people were everything to Roxy. Her peace, strength, and courage, not regretting anything next to them, the girl walked forward. But just like in that story, no matter how strong the light is, there is always darkness nearby. The girl was jealous of her sister that she could easily defeat even the Wanderer without damage. Always following someone, Roxy never led anyone. First place seemed too far away. They were attacked by giants many times, and there were times when Lila's regeneration could not keep up. But even so, the guys managed to cope and escape, even in those moments when it looked unreal. Selling books, the girl not only felt useful but also met a lot of people. She did everything for her family, just as her family did everything for her, but something was missing. Mom tried to console Roxy, saying that even though her sister saved her, without the help of the brunette, Lila definitely could not have survived. Everyone takes the place in the world that suits them best, so don't take on too much. However, such an answer hardly satisfied the curious Roxy. She wanted to be more useful and better despite her mother's words. Then Asha said that she is moving forward thanks to her daughters. She does not know where she would be if she had not given birth to them. Each of the girls was more valuable than anyone or anything. Being close to their children was a mother's dream. Hearing these words, Roxy felt calmer in her soul. She realized that even though the Pathfinder was a useless class in the world of dungeons, her party never left her behind. Even if it was a burden to them, this is not just pity but love. There was no point in envying my sister. Everyone is unique in their own way, and that is the strength of a person. To be true to yourself and your principles, that's what her family taught the brunette. Now everything is in the girl's hands. And even Odin's words about origin had no meaning, although it explained their difference. Outwardly, they didn't even look alike. The girl, like a black crow, was different from anyone in her family. Eyes, hair, personalities, they had nothing in common at all. This question tormented Roxy already in childhood. But despite her differences, the girl understood that next to these people she felt needed. The truth was unimportant when there was such a beautiful sister nearby who would always lend her shoulder. Roxy wondered if she could become as great a Jedi as her sister. The girl believed that the light had not yet turned away from her. It was obvious what the brunette would do now. The story about the golden child turned out to be true, the book they had recently read together. All these were not fairy tales. Perhaps some clues were left on the pages of history. The book itself may have been slightly damaged by the flames, but the pages were intact. According to Dino, the girl should have found the Earth Clan. There was something about it in history. The people we needed were behind the huge mountain. In the book, they were called corrupted. If the fairy tale turned out to be reality, then after crossing the worship mountain, the girl will definitely meet the Earth Clan. Having waited for dawn, the girl hurried on her way, realizing that now her great journeys were beginning. Reviving your sister. avenging your mother and friend, and finding out the truth about yourself will not be easy. But everything turned out to be much more complicated than it might seem at first glance. The girl didn't have a mini-map to find the location she needed for the quest, and none of the people knew about the right place. Traveling to different places, the girl collected information, collecting it into one whole picture. One of the wanderers he met suggested that the rock the girl was looking for was now called Foggy. The mountain was named so because it was always shrouded in fog. Having received the first clue, Roxy decided to go immediately. The Misty Mountains are not a common place. Not only were there white trolls, but Draugr could also be found there. The harsh conditions and dangers waiting at every step did not frighten the girl. Although she was not particularly confident, she was moving towards her goal. Rumors that this mountain was eating people were frightening. But Roxy was not 10 years old to believe such stories, so she continued to move forward. It was very difficult to climb or go around dead ends. The girl had no climbing experience at all. In addition, because of the fog, it was impossible to see anything, and for a resident of the plains, the thin air seemed poisonous. During the journey, the water managed to run out. The only thing that supported the girl was the spirit of her sister. Roxy was always in a hurry to travel. Even without collecting supplies, her sister always had to think for two. It's a pity that they couldn't eat that cake altogether. It was a sad birthday. Lila was too dear a person for the main character. The path turned out to be too difficult. But as soon as she hid and stopped making noise, the girl's ears caught the barely noticeable sound of water. The girl was so thirsty that without hesitation she took a step forward, without even noticing that there was an abyss in front of her. The leap of faith was improvised, and there was no hay from below, although the girl managed to survive. Raising her head up, Roxy noticed a waterfall. This was real luck because thanks to the replenishment of supplies, she would be able to go further. However, the girl's illusions disappeared into the wind, as did her flask, as soon as she took in some liquid. It was not water, but acid. Now everything was falling into place. These mountains were indeed very dangerous. As soon as the girl noticed this, a strange red liquid appeared in front of her. Not understanding what was happening, Roxy continued to wait, and as soon as all the mucus was gone, a skull appeared among the remains. There was definitely someone here, and it would be good if they were ordinary novice necromancers. Hearing someone's voice, the unknown person asked if there was someone nearby. Then Roxy tried to give a sign. The girl did not see anything through the fog. The only one who somehow improved visibility was a strange-looking butterfly. As soon as the insect flew a little higher, a large shell appeared among the branches of the tree. Roxy was horrified when she noticed that inside this monster there were many bags with bones in them. The main character did not understand how this was possible, but more importantly, whose voice she had heard before. Then looking more closely, she noticed a young man in one of the bags who was calling for help. The butterfly landed on the cocoon of a less fortunate version of Rudeus Grey Rat. In a parallel world, the young man did not turn out to be Imba. Roxy was very scared, but she understood that she had to do something, save a person. This was very important. To begin with, the brunette wanted to climb the tree, but saturated with acid fumes, it did not give her a chance. The girl tried to get answers, but it seemed like everything in this place was poison to her body. This explained a lot, including why it was so difficult to breathe on the mountain. The girl didn't know what to do, and there were few options. She took her knife. With all this protection around the cocoons, it was obvious that the sacs themselves would be thin. But when she tried to open one of these, the knife simply jumped to the side, as if she was trying to pierce the metal. The recoil hit her hands. The girl could not believe that her plan did not work, because then the tree had no weak points. Roxy began to think about what Lila would do in her place, how she would save the young man. The boy asked the girl to leave because he also tried to cut the bag, and since it didn't work out on either side, then there is no solution. However, taught by her family, Roxy never abandoned those who needed her help. Copying her sister's technique, the girl concentrated energy in her hand. It seemed to her as if she was now playing rock, paper, scissors. Using her power, Roxy channeled the force of energy into her fist, gradually concentrating more and more. Having smeared this overgrown plant several times, the girl was sure that it had an effect. There were many bruises on her arms, but remembering that even in such a situation her family did not give up, she continued to beat. Sparks and remnants of the mittens flew in different directions. The guy asked to stop, but the girl's determination was too strong. It was possible to win only by an effort of will over oneself, so Roxy simply could not give up. The main character was incredibly happy that she was finally able to free the hostage. The guy himself was surprised at who exactly saved him. The fragile-looking girl was able to destroy such a strong barrier. The stranger was already ready to cry with happiness, but fate is too cruel a thing. Roxy didn't even have time to rejoice at her victory when the monster took her into its clutches. A giant tentacle or someone's tail was pulling the girl somewhere deeper. A plan and physical strength were needed. However, in such a situation, it is hardly possible to reason sensibly and make the right decisions. This thing lived under the acid lake. Her hands were full. So remembering Jack Hanma's technique, the girl tried to free herself. And it even worked, although the situation was not much better than before. A terrifying scream was heard from somewhere in the depths. Roxy had never heard anything more terrible and loud in her life. Vibrations rippled through the acid. Something large and dangerous was preparing to emerge from this lake. But before the girl had time to get closer, a huge column of water appeared right in the middle of the acid reservoir. The monster that was in front of the heroine could not be called what lives in this world. This giant was different from any previously encountered, and unlike those who had previously confronted Roxy and her sister. The monster from the lake was more intelligent. It did not attack using pure force, but relied on its strategy. Roxy had no idea how to fight such a monster, so she tried to dodge his attacks. In addition to the fact that the creature's power was amazing, it was very large. The vessel was literally everywhere. And the worst thing is that this walking horror park also imitated the voices of the people it had previously absorbed. No matter how fast Roxy ran, the monster was always behind. It scared her and made her act faster. The creature also regularly attacked with its tongue, but it only managed to hit on the 10th attempt. Roxy's body flew to the side like she was a ping pong ball, but it was too early to give up. To die in such a place without even reaching the first step of your life would be a shame. The girl was ready to face a powerful blow, putting a block. All that remained for the heroine was to wait. But unexpectedly for the girl herself, the giant stopped and began to growl. The monster's behavior seemed illogical. Then the voice of that same guy was heard from behind the girl. He decided to help out his savior because you can't remain a debtor all your life. Although in his condition it would have been worth returning to the city as soon as possible, the adventurer decided to challenge the monster to a fight. He was not particularly strong, but the fire that the guy mastered perfectly did a good job of intimidating the giant. This beta version of Cthulhu would not want to get hit with a fiery blow from the main character's sister. With his attacks, the young man paved the way for Roxy to retreat. There was little chance of victory. The boy was quite accurate, so he picked up stones and began throwing them at the monster. Even though the stone was not a legendary weapon, a precise hit in the weak spot could cause significant damage. While the monster was spinning in pain, the guys turned on the sprint mode and began to move towards the nearest shelter. We can talk at any other time if they leave here alive. There was a passage ahead through which one could exit on the other side and be safe. However, the monster was not completely stupid, so he brought down the only option for salvation. It was necessary to think about what to do earlier, and I wanted to get an answer as soon as possible. Hope quickly faded, but it was still too early to give up. Perhaps there would be another way out somewhere. Even though this thought was logical, it hardly gave strength to the guys so that they could move on. The monster did not plan to take a timeout, so he continued to hit with his tongue like a whip. The force of the blow was amazing. It was hardly possible to dodge such a quick attack. After the impact, the rocks shattered into small stones, as if they were made not of solid rock but of cardboard. The girl was terribly afraid of the monster, but she could not leave the guy alone to die. Previously, her sister always protected her, but now the girl is absolutely alone in this dark world of Hermaeus Mora. When the four of them ran away from the giants, it was perceived as a game or a simple adventure. Roxy had the protection of her family back then, so she didn't have to worry and just watched. But as soon as she herself found herself in the role of the one who had to solve the problem, everything became significantly more complicated. Previously, someone close to her always came to the girl's aid, but now she is the only one she has. Realizing that the fear she had previously experienced accompanied all her loved ones, the girl realized how naive she was. Giving up is not about her family, so Roxy asked her partner in misfortune to distract the monster again, then everything would work out. The girl's eyes lit up with confidence and strength. Seeing this, the boy decided to trust. His weapon had a fairly high damage radius, so he was excellent as bait. Even though the local acid giant wasn't chaotic like its brethren, calling it intelligent was still too much. The boy noticed that the girl was not around. He knew that she definitely didn't run away. Then what was her plan? But the girl was able to overcome her fear, taking a piece of rock that her sister had often fought with earlier. Roxy grabbed her tongue. Her plan was to climb onto the tentacle while it attacked the boy. Now everything was ready for a Lily-style counterattack. Jumping up, the girl was ready to cast a meteor. To defeat this monster, she will have to become stronger than she was before. The monster did not expect that his enemy would come up with and implement such a dangerous and yet effective plan. It quickly became obvious that the giant would not be able to avoid damage, which meant that one way or another, victory was theirs. Although the blow itself was not too strong, due to his carelessness, the giant hit the ceiling. In addition to the enormous damage, these blows that the monster made opened an exit through which the guys could escape. This light at the end of the tunnel was special. The spirit of adventure pushed the girl forward so she was not afraid of anything. But even though the exit was in sight of the guys, because of the monster's rampage, the acid level rose, and now there was no way to the other side. However, after such an enchanting battle, it was too much to die because of such stupidity. The girl remembered CS 1.6 and began to bathe. Roxy tried to cheer herself up by telling herself that she had been to even more dangerous places before, but it hardly helped her. Every step was more and more difficult, but it was necessary to go. Under the rubble of stones, the monster asked for help, but hardly anyone would come to this call. But the monster didn't want to lose just like that. Gathering his last strength, the giant charged his death ray. The shot was fast enough to hit the main character and her assistant. True, Roxy still managed to react. She jumped high with the boy. Even if they managed to dodge the blow, the situation in which the guys found themselves was quite unfavorable. The amount of acid continued to increase under his feet. The young man's shoes were practically touching it. But an even bigger problem was that even after several blows, the giant was able to get up. The guy insisted that the main character leave him and run away, the only way to be saved. True, the girl didn't even think about choosing this path, even if it really was the most logical. But even though the young man managed to escape once, he was ready to die. Together, they are almost guaranteed not to get out. Even if I didn't want to admit it, it was obvious not only to the stranger, Roxy also knew the truth. While the guys were arguing, the monster behind them managed to gather strength for another attack. Apparently, it would be the strongest. The basilisk, whose secret room no one should have discovered, launched small balls at the guys. In one of them, there was a young man sitting. The situation seemed desperate, but then the stones in front of the guys scattered to the sides, and blue light began to pour from the hole. All the monster's attacks were repelled. The boy could not believe that this happened. At the most difficult moment, someone appeared who could save the main character. The robe, throwing blades, and strange energy that enveloped the girl amazed Roxy. She couldn't even look away. The giant tried to attack the new participant in the battle. His strength was still not ready, but he managed to fire a single volley. Then the stranger took out one of the knives that was securely fastened to her belt. Roxy didn't know how to repel the giant's attack with a dart. This was beyond the bounds of human abilities, but who then came to their aid? The stranger was able to destroy the monster with just one attack. It was incredible. Even Asha was not capable of this. The difference between the main character and this mysterious girl in stats was simply cosmic. The man standing in front of them was as powerful as an entire army. The cave continued to collapse, so the stranger decided to hurry and saved Roxy and her partner. Watching from the side, the brunette couldn't believe that they managed to get out of here alive. But before the heroine had time to thank her savior, she flew to the side. The stranger was disappointed that Asha's daughter could not cope even with such a small giant. Roxy couldn't believe it. She was saved by a man who knew her mother. The girl's strength was so small that if they had met a monster of a higher class, they would have already died. As it turned out, the warrior who saved the girl was from the same clan as Asha. She asked where Roxy's sister was. The main character asked her new friend for help, holding out a core of light in front of her. She also held out a book that her mother had previously made. The girl's relative carefully studied the pages. Roxy still believed that she could save her sister as long as she still had her heart, because that's what it says in the book. But the stranger destroyed the book, saying that it was just a fairy tale based on real events. The information in it is hardly reliable, and even if it were, what guarantee is there that after so much time nothing has changed? The destruction of something so dear to the main character became another serious factor for her. Even though she had no strength at all, she always wanted to preserve the memory of her loved ones. Blue and purple, colors that took too much from the girl. If Satoru Gojo had been in their world, they clearly would not have become friends. The girl's plan was initially stupid. After receiving a small part of Roxy's power, she decided that she could save everyone. The stranger advised Roxy to give up, but the heroine did not plan to leave her sister. She ran after her. The brunette's blow was too weak to cause damage, so she naturally received a counterattack. The guy was shocked by what he saw and hurried to his friend to check her condition. But I was very surprised when I noticed the speed of her regeneration. Restoration was activated almost immediately. The stranger saw great potential in the girl, but due to the fact that she did not meditate, the flame was too weak. As a student of Asha, the girl was too weak. If so, then her mother should have done something more useful. Even though the savior was disappointed, she did not want her relative's daughter to die just like that. The girl did not have the strength to save even herself, so the path she had chosen would only lead her to hell. If she destroys her sister's heart right now, then Roxy will stop and won't interfere where she shouldn't. But the guy saved by the girl did not plan to stand silently and watch. He picked up the cannonball and began to defend it. The main character was very touched by this, but then the mysterious girl added that it was hopeless to save someone. The girl was angry with her relative because she knows nothing, neither about the battle with Odin, nor about the death of her relatives. Then the green-haired girl used a skill from WoW to destroy the rock behind the guys. She asked Roxy if she didn't know anything. Why not explain herself to the one who was behaving incorrectly? The stranger wanted to hear the answer to what the heroine was doing when Odin crushed her mother and sister. God standing above all others, did the girl at least try to resist him? Did she at least do something? But the woman knew the answer. Now the whole world was looking for the main character. She was the most expensive criminal. Roxy's determination to save her family was commendable, but every word must be backed up with action. To give her answer, the girl, like JoJo, needs to get out of a huge hole. Then she will pass this test. The hole was deep enough, so the first quest Roxy faced was simple. She needed to survive. The young man tried to catch the heroine by the hand, but it was too late to do anything. There was a large amount of snow at the bottom of the cave, so Roxy even remained conscious after landing. Due to too high a load, the heroine's body was very painful, as if lightning pulses were passing through her body. More importantly, Roxy was worried about her sister's heart because it fell down. Where could it lie? Regardless of the answer, standing up was a must. Without determination and confidence in her task, the girl was unlikely to be able to cope. But as soon as I tried to take a step, the strength began to slowly leave the body, and my vision darkened. Regeneration helped to cope with even the most serious wounds, but a little more and it's unlikely that everything will end well. Meanwhile, at the top, the guy remembered how he survived in the long dark and made everything to go down into the cave. He told the stranger that even though they had not known Roxy for so long, he was sure that she would cope. The young man continued to be angry with the lady because she forbade him to provide assistance. Night came, and the temperature dropped. Then the representative of the Golden Tree clan decided to tell a little about how things really are. All members of their family are nothing more than consumables before the gods, who grant them powers and eternal life. Everyone in their clan is just a tree that produces golden apples, not even a person, let alone a person. And Roxy ran away with something that is extremely important to Odin. If she doesn't become stronger, she won't survive. The scope of the girl's actions is something that only the best of the gods can achieve, not to mention weak creatures like her. If the main character's words that she wants to save her sister are true, she will find an opportunity to climb the cliff. Regardless of condition, amount of mana, or whether she has a grappling hook from dying light, if the guy still wants to help, then he should imagine the danger of Roxy's chosen path. There is no place for weakness, pity, fear, or anything that would distract her. There will definitely be a huge number of obstacles on the girl's path that will try to stop her. Therefore, if the main character cannot overcome even such a trivial task, she should not have taken on her dream. Even though the woman's words were quite logical and fair, the guy still didn't want to measure himself against the way of life. But even after listening to everything, the young man had no doubt that Roxy could cope. The green-haired girl couldn't believe that the guy believed so much in a person he actually didn't know. However, he had never met anyone like him before, who rushed forward to save others, forgetting about himself. When the guy fell into the giant's trap, he accepted his fate. It was sad, but there was nowhere to go. She came, not giving up or ignoring the request, but really giving it her all for success. Other wanderers ran away without even listening to him, let alone trying to help. One got the impression that the guy was almost crazy like Subaru, because it's quite difficult to miss a chance every time. Over and over again, faced with the fact that for several days no one even tried except the girl. The flash of confidence in front of the dark monster went out too quickly. It seemed as if the monster was feeding on this despair. But while waiting for the end, the guy saw a long beam of light that was heading straight towards him. Now he simply cannot reject it. Also, that wasn't the only time he was saved. Roxy helped him out several more times after. Fear has no power over her, and neither does fatigue. At least the young man continued to believe in this. Therefore, even now, understanding what exactly happened, he is confident that the girl will definitely cope. The girl standing next to her decided to add a little darkness to this vessel of light. If Roxy doesn't return before dark, she has no chance. The day has just begun, so there is still a chance. Now this is a fork in the road where a girl can choose her path. The Golden Tree Clan representative was thinking about Roxy's abilities. Her wounds were healing too quickly. Nature itself helped her in her travels, but can she survive when she has already spent a lot of energy on the road? It will be impossible to complete this quest using only regeneration, and the girl hardly knows how to spread light. In addition to cold and fatigue, stones falling from above were a serious problem for the main character. She liked Donkey Kong, but playing it in real life was a little problematic. All you have to do is take one wrong step and the force of gravity will turn you into a cutlet. The girl was barely strong enough to crawl. She tried to remember something of what Dino had told her. If everything goes on the same way, it turns out to be beyond our strength to save our sister. Then what move should we take? Finding a way out in the most extreme situations is what the name Brother taught Roxy to the end. Look around. Finding something to use to the maximum, every object can become a weapon or salvation. In the cave, there was a place where sunlight penetrated, where you could warm up a little and think. The answer came quickly. It was necessary to meditate. Then Roxy decided to turn to her memories. When her daughter was sick, Asha spread light to relieve the symptoms. It really helped. The key to saving the girl is the light. It was worth thinking about what exactly needs to be done. Due to the fact that Roxy always missed training, she is unable to concentrate. When they were still children, They were forced to meditate to keep the Haemons circulating in their bodies. Feel the light within, the basic principle of mastering divine powers. However, the problem was that going into meditation and gaining control over the power is not easy. To simply reach the depths of yourself, you need to achieve complete immersion, 100% concentration. Asha said earlier that you need to imagine that your body is just a small point. Nothing beyond this point should exist at this moment. Like drawing in two chunks, you need to feel your pulse. Imagine how the air circulates throughout your body. Like a golden thread, a stream of energy will be drawn towards the body, creating an invisible circle around it. In consciousness, the point will begin to look more and more like the sun. The main thing is not to be distracted. The brighter and warmer the sun is represented inside, the stronger the warmth and strength is felt. By collecting light particles around her, Roxy quickly harnesses the energy needed to complete the quest. What is happening is reminiscent of a Christmas evening when people set off fireworks. As soon as you let the light into you, most of the wounds immediately heal and your strength is restored. Thanks to her mother's instructions and the peculiar kindness of her new relative, the girl managed to reach this level. However, it took a long time. The eclipse doesn't start until hard mode, so she had to hurry. Or in the end, when they go downstairs to get it, they will find an ice statue made too well. This was literally the last opportunity to climb the cliff. Later, it would be impossible to climb in the dark. Since the girl's signature ability is speed, she doesn't need to climb, she needs to run along the wall. Remembering how Ichigo tried to avoid being hollowed out, Roxy was careful and tried not to stumble. From above, the boy and the clan member continued to wait for the main character. The young man constantly reproached himself for the fact that if she died, he would not be able to forgive himself. Even despite the ban, it was necessary to try to save Roxy, because the situation looks too absurd. A relative also doubted that Asha's daughter lacked experience and knowledge. In such a situation, everyone was against her. False hope was the most cruel, so the girl planned to destroy the core of holiness. Roxy is just a young girl who suffered a difficult fate. She should not have gone further. However, as they agreed, the main character proved her readiness not in word, but in deed. At the last moment, she managed to save her sister's core from destruction. The young man was glad to see the girl return even more than she was, so he wanted to immediately run up to her. However, during the time spent in the cave, something changed a lot. As if by royal will, Roxy put pressure on those around her. Light circulated in her body, her eyes filled with gold, and all the serious wounds had time to heal completely. We are transported to an unknown character who is dripping a small amount of his life onto a sapling. The girl asks someone to take this tree, which has managed to sprout a little in these couple of moments. It quickly becomes clear that Asha turns to her friend Megan to watch the kids if anything happens. Thanks to the tree, the green-haired girl will be able to monitor the condition of her friend. Megan didn't want to agree, because she doesn't like making promises that she definitely won't be able to keep. Then, before leaving, the mother of the main character added that she had no one to count on except Megan. The tree continued to grow, almost becoming the size of the world tree when it was a sapling. Its light calmed Megan, but the fact that someday she would have to save her friend's children worried her greatly. When one defeated Asha and Lily, Megan returned to the battle site. Not even a whole wall remained of the house. Realizing that if Odin did it all, it might be impossible to save the girls. Megan decided to try anyway. Asha was not one of those who would lose without inflicting some kind of blow on her enemy, which would later help her win. Studying the tracks, Megan looked for anything that could tell her exactly where to look. But the only feature that was found was the iceberg that sank the Titanic. One of the fallen trees looked suspicious enough, so Megan walked closer. There was definitely a mark, a line and a clip on it. Apparently that's what Asha was trying to leave. At the moment when her mother saved Roxy and told her to run, she managed to leave this message. She hoped that her friend would be able to understand everything that was required. Megan was able to find the message and immediately moved in the direction indicated by her friend. Their destinies crossed once again so that they could accomplish something great. Continuing to move in this direction, Megan came across the tracks left by Roxy. Not far from her, there were many soldiers who were conducting a search operation. The girl did not plan to spare those who caused the death of her friend, even if appearance deceived the enemy. Megan quickly made it clear that she was stronger than even the attack titan. Having finished in one place, the girl went to the next, time after time to keep that promise. Having reached the foggy mountain, the girl noticed a giant. Now it became clear where to look for the girls. It's amazing that the child told her that she didn't know anything. The character was definitely passed on from Asha. The guy was not sure that he had the right to hold something valuable in his hands. However, despite this, Megan knew what it meant to be born a descendant of this clan cursed by the gods. She probably knows this better than anyone else in this world, so this is the best outcome for Lily. But Roxy herself looked at this situation from a slightly different angle. She was not going to give up. And having received confirmation that Asha had left behind a worthy legacy, Megan finally smiled. The green-haired girl promised to keep her word. Apparently now luck is again looking directly at the main character. They may barely know each other, but Megan knows more about Roxy than anyone else. Megan promised to take the boys to the Earth Clan, so she called everyone to follow her. Despite her bruises and fatigue, the girl was ready to rush towards her goal without stopping. Then the guy stopped her. He finally said his name. Otherwise, I was already tired of figuring out how to designate it. The boy's name was Aldwin Hector. He was grateful for the help and salvation. He will never forget this help. The girl was really happy because this was the first time she was able to save someone. Megan was not going to wait for the guys to finish and notified them that she was almost gone. Then the guy handed the girl a pouch to make storing the light core much more convenient and safer. Aldwin's thoughtfulness captivated the girl, but the young man himself did not see anything special in it. They said goodbye, promising to meet again someday. The guy was glad that he was able to survive. Having gone down one of the paths, the group came out straight into a large stone swamp. The clan of the earth are hermits. Not many people know where they are, and besides, it's not easy to get to them. They live right behind the swamp. This is the only path that leads to the right place. Having heard the key phrases, the main character planned to rush forward just to go through the swamp. But naivety when traveling often puts a spoke in the wheels of travelers, which is what Megan wanted to say. True, the restless girl hardly wanted to listen to the end, so she almost immediately found herself in danger of Cho'Gath's ult. The teeth surrounded the girl, but the path to the top was not blocked, and it was not difficult to evade. As soon as her mouth slammed shut, the girl finally understood that one mistake and the adventure would be over before it was supposed to. But in addition to the mouth, the attack was also carried out with a fist, which it was also simply impossible to evade. The force of the blow turned out to be so great that if the direction was chosen correctly, Roxy crossed the swamp in a second. The condition after the blow was so deplorable that she would not even be able to get up. Megan walked with a satisfied approach to a place where what was happening would be better visible. She advised them to deal with the giant. Otherwise, in the future it will cause even more problems than now. Perhaps it will not even allow you to reach the end. This was the second training. To save my sister, it was necessary to defeat another giant. The monster that emerged from under the water looked scary enough to understand how dangerous the fight would be. Before the battle continues, we are given a bit of exposition to better understand the nature of the giants. These creatures can take on almost any form and have many unique features and abilities. And their trump card is enhanced regeneration, which in developed monsters is capable of restoring a body from a finger. There are two ways to survive encountering such a monster: by destroying the giant's heart or by escaping. However, it is worth considering that their hearts are not as fragile as those of people or animals. They are stronger than steel. Giants do not kill innocent people for food. Their goal is a mystery, like themselves in general. The only thing they have in common is their gigantic size, aggression towards all living things, and lack of fear. Some of these creatures were intelligent, such as the one Roxy would fight. This statue for collecting tailed beasts asked if the girl was afraid of him. Even though Megan said to defeat the monster, it is unlikely that the girl will be able to cope with it now. The creature from the acid was head and shoulders weaker than this monster, and the main character was significantly tired. But soon the monster left. Then the green-haired one explained that it was a guardian of the swamps, attacking only those who go to the other side. This feature literally saved Roxy, but she did not want to accept her weakness. The girl has to realize how powerless she is in front of someone stronger than her. The only problem is that this monster is not even 1/10 as dangerous as Odin. Then the main character turned to Megan to help her learn how to fight. Asha's friend accepted the request, but warned that later the girl would regret taking this road. This is where the training began. Every day the girl climbed the mountain carrying a huge boulder on her back, and after descending she meditated for hours, calling on the power of light and accumulating it in her body. This is what several months of the main character's life looked like. A lot of training, little rest, and even more training. At one point, the girl realized that she simply did not feel the cold, as if she herself had become a source of heat. Then her mentor explained that the warmth that the girl feels comes from her heart, all thanks to the power of Idun. Her blessing gives regeneration, physical strength, and endurance, and it is from her that they draw strength. This is like the alchemist's gate of truth. Only the limit of the use of light power depends on the user. The power that Roxy has, the power that Asha has, the power that Megan has, is a gift from the ancestors. Meditation is only the basis. It is the foundation of training, strengthening the connection with the forces of light. If you try to find an alternative, then it's like photosynthesis, like plants. People with this power are powered by the sun. The light that circulates throughout the body during meditation becomes heat as well as energy. The ability to control your own body temperature is just a nice bonus received in addition. The amount of light absorbed affects not only performance, but also consciousness. By stumbling and getting up, each person becomes stronger, and if at the same time he learns a lesson, the effect is enhanced. Over time, the body and mind will become so strong that any storm will seem like nothing. At least Megan thinks so. Advancing in mastery of the forces of light, the variety and complexity of training gradually increased. Many of them seemed stupid or useless, but the increase in the amount of energy as well as physical indicators said otherwise. But the girl underestimated her mentor too much. While completing the task, the girl fell into a trap. The one who installed it was a guy we knew, Aldvin. He was surprised by such an unexpected meeting. The main character had a similar reaction, because months had passed since that moment. No one expected that they would see each other so soon. Continuing her workout, the girl talked to her friend. Each of them did not stand still, continuing to improve their skills, knowledge, and body. The training was hard, much harder than the guys, especially because of Megan's character. Nutrition was an extremely important element of any training, since he and the master did not know how to cook. It was sad. The guy learned not only to hunt well, but also to cook. He was taught by Sanji Devil's Leg himself. Before the main character could add anything, Aldwin had already run to prepare dinner. Over time, the girl even learned to cross the swamp, and meditating on a floating log also became no problem. Roxy thought she could relax now that things were starting to work out for her, and then she received a gift. Then the master explained that this was just the beginning. They had learned the basics, and now there would be combat training. Megan did not spare even Aldwin, forcing him to provide support in the girl's training. The task was that it was necessary to knock down a stone on the fly, so be it, but for all the attempts, Roxy didn't even get hit. The end of the training was always the same. The main character fell into the bolt and swam to the shore, cursing her coach. Noticing the way the girl fought, Aldwin suggested that it would be more effective to use her legs. The girl's strength lies in the strength and endurance of her legs. She could run over rocks even with a guy on her back. One had only to try once, and the girl immediately realized that the young man's words were true. Using your feet during training turned out to be much more effective. Now half of the stones were knocked down without a chance. And after some more time, Roxy was able to reflect all 100 thrown stones, an absolute record. But now, having completed even this test, the girl had to pass an exam before she went to the Earth Clan. The girl's opponent will be the mentor himself. The girl had no choice. Megan reminded her about the mountain that she walks on her own. Therefore, if the girl does not attack, then the master will do it. Aldwin did not understand what he should do. Even though it was commonplace to fight now, they had previously fought more than 100 fights, but it was unrealistic to imagine themselves as a winner. Megan's level was too extreme that after just a few months, it would be possible to reach the same level with her. One way or another, the only way to pass this final stage was by doing something that was not expected of Roxy. In a state of battle, the girl's body temperature will gradually rise, and at one moment, everything will burn. Rock, water, bone, or anything else, destruction will become part of her style, otherwise she will not win. Now it has become obvious how Megan then burned Asha's book, although why the purple flame was not explained to us. However, the very thought that she would have to appeal to such a destructive element greatly worried the girl. A whole year passed, and Roxy did not manage to strike a single blow to the master. About 1,000 fights were held. Aldwin traded in the market, communicating with familiar clients. He seemed to get along well with everyone. Someone even teased him that he was such a good hunter, but he didn't hunt because he was always busy with someone else. But one day a soldier approached the guy with a leaflet. On this piece of paper was a picture of Roxy. The young man did not know how not to give himself away, because he knew perfectly well where the girl was. The guy was able to roll a 20 on persuasion, so his game worked. He offered meat to the soldier. His friend was surprised at such a large reward, a whole million. It was unknown that such a thing needed to be done. Then the soldier listed the main articles under which the girl was accused. If all this were true, such an amount would be justified. The employee asked to report if someone suspicious was spotted during the hunt. The guy planned to close to notify Roxy and her mentor that it was not safe here. Jack was surprised that the guy was closing the shop so quickly. He had so much meat. He was very angry about what was happening, especially the fact that so many terrible crimes were attributed to the girl. Jack found the seller's behavior strange. He reacted too harshly to what was happening. The main character's training continued, and during the time spent with Megan, she became much stronger. However, this was not enough to win. The girl could not concentrate the light at one point. Her weakness made it impossible to get close enough to Megan to land even one blow. A year of battle was enough to develop Roxy's combat intelligence. She had good sense of direction. True, to achieve her goal, too much was still missing in particular skill. Megan continued to provoke the girl, but the force of her blows was not enough. It was necessary to include at least 50% full cover. Otherwise, you couldn't surpass your mentor even in one thing. The strength of the attack depends on how tightly you squeeze the light. If you do it too slowly and weakly, the blow will come out weak. Aldwin finally got to the right place and informed them that the military had already reached this village. Even after a year, the intensity of the search has not fallen. More likely, on the contrary, the pace is only increasing. Then the master explained that the next day the girl would be 18 years old. From that moment on, once a year, she could get that apple. It is because of this that they began to actively hunt for her. Now is the best time to catch the girl. Then Roxy remembered her sister's birthday. That's what happened that time. Odin appeared on Lily's 18th birthday. It is likely that Odin will appear again if they are spotted. Now they will have to be much more careful. Aldwin was worried about his friend because if the harvest comes, they hardly have a chance against the High God. Then Megan asked her student to go and rest while she went to a secret place. The girl didn't want to stop, but there was no point in training now, so she should go and rest. The mentor explained that over the past 2 years, Roxy had only spent power. It was worth resting a little. Then the main character would be able to understand the master's words on her own. Left alone, the guys talked about how Megan's character may be complex, but she is a good person. She helped me master the art of light energy, saved me many times and told me so much. However, the girl was frightened by the fact that she could not comprehend the compaction of light, otherwise she might become a tree. Not being able to protect yourself and your sister is the worst fate for the main character. Aldwin didn't know how to cheer up his friend. It's unlikely that she would want to play cards or some other board game right now. Since the master has left, it means that now he has to train near the lake in order to achieve his goal. However, the guys didn't even realize that there was a tale behind the young man. Now they are promised big problems. Loud sounds of blows were heard in the cold taiga. Even a stormy stream of snow could not drown them out. Roxy continued to practice condensing light. She could definitely use some lessons from Gone Freaks. Each time the blows actually became stronger and more effective, but the desired effect could not be achieved. The girl tried to control the force, but with each blow, complete chaos ensued around her. Tired of constant failures, the main character simply lay in the snow, not understanding what she was doing wrong. As soon as I thought that nothing was working out, the girl's explosive character showed itself in full glory. To cope with the upcoming test, Roxy had to try harder. She continued to convince herself of this. However, during practice, the girl noticed that something round and metallic passed right through her leg. The city, meanwhile, was under cover of snow. Empty streets, light in the windows, and dim lights. Aldwin walks the streets looking to see if the soldiers have left the city. No one was visible. In one of the alleys, the young man will be met by the same Jack. He said that he had been waiting for him for a long time. Then the brunette came up to him and said that the guy now owes him until his death. He noted that Aldwin skillfully led the soldiers. He was interested in how long they had known criminal number 1. That time Jack was actually following the guy, but it was an unfortunate mistake. As soon as Roxy was mentioned, the young hunter realized that things had turned out in an unexpected way. He told his friend to sit and do nothing. It was a request. He had to save his friend. It seems that Aldwin and this girl were close, but he did not understand how you could be friends with someone who was worth so much. This guy could give even Kakuzu a head start in his love for money. He made a decision without even thinking really hard. But in any case, it was too late. The soldiers received a tip on the man and most likely had already begun the capture. Jack continued to wait for thanks because he did not give away the guy himself. It was worth a lot as he believed. Aldwin didn't care about this man or the reward. He hurried to make sure that everything was fine with the girl. The brunette continued to not understand what had happened at all, but he was upset that his friend ran away without thanking him. The guy believed that Odvin wanted to hand over the girl himself and receive the reward without sharing it with his friend. But as soon as he said something like that, the young man made it clear that he was not to be trifled with. A crossbow bolt flew straight through the center of Jack's head. It happened so quickly that he didn't even realize it. The hunter asked his friend not to use his mouth again unless he wanted the last shot to be an adjustment shot. Roxy could be in danger due to his carelessness. This worried Aldwin greatly, so he ran to her. Meanwhile, the girl's injury caused serious problems. Now she could not use her trump card. Her leg was injured, so the soldiers hastened to encircle her to cut off the possibility of retreat. Not understanding how she could be found, Roxy tried to concentrate the light for healing. The soldiers kept arriving, but they didn't even know what mistake they would make. The monster sleeping under the ice began to awaken. He was ready to punish those who entered the wrong area. A moment later, many people were at the other end of the gate. Even if they were her enemies, Roxy did not want casualties. Seeing who had been next to them all this time, the soldiers began to run back in fear. That same giant finally waited for his next prey to come to him. No one expected to see a giant in such a place. Hardly anyone other than the main character could cope with him. However, as soon as the girl studied the enemy in more detail, she noticed that for some reason he had become larger. No one even knew that there was a giant in these districts. It seems that this was the end for the squad. The only chance of salvation was to escape, but it was also impossible to abandon the task. The monster was definitely smarter than the others. He laughed at those who ran in front of him. He definitely has a special level, no lower. Looking at him after 2 years of training, the girl did not feel that she would win. The fear that the girl had not felt for a long time broke through again. The monster was still better, as at the first meeting. Even if the main character is not ready to confront someone like him now, if she doesn't do anything, it will be worse later. As luck would have it, the mentor also left without leaving even a hint of where she could be found. Realizing that you can only save someone by fighting, Roxy decided to try her hand. The captain of the squad was thinking about how he could sit on 2 chairs at once, but there were few options. He then noticed that Roxy engaged the giant in battle, despite the fact that she was surrounded by enemies. The girl didn't want to just sit and watch people around her die. It was the only choice for her. The king of the sea, who escaped from the One-Punch Man and lost to Saitama, struck terror into everyone around him. The captain could not believe that the girl rushed at such a monster. Apparently, she did not want to be caught. Last time the giant's blow knocked out Roxy, but now she has become better and is able to do at least something. Even though those whom she protects are her enemies, they are the same people who, for some reason, are on the other side. The main goal for which the girl gained strength was not to return her sister, but to become an arbiter of justice. One for all that will save everyone. At least that was the girl's dream. The man was amazed that Roxy managed to repel the blow of the far from weak giant. The monster's body has transformed into liquid. Most likely it can easily change its density. This meant that ordinary blows would not be enough to win. The monster's hand began to come back together right in the air above the main character. It was a sneaky trick. But the girl was ready for this. She had already convinced herself 2 years ago that you couldn't defeat him that easily. In addition to the fact that this giant could easily change his density, had different attacks, his regeneration was also at the level. The captain hurried to send his man to the fortress. Help was needed. The situation was critical since the giant was attacking everyone. A combat detachment was needed. Despite the large amount of training and experience gained, 1 blow was enough to immobilize Roxy. The giant asked the captured soldiers if they were scared. He was curious how tasty their horror was. He opened the mouth in his stomach, where a bright green light burned. The monster's aura changed greatly. Suddenly, energy rapidly began to disappear from the heartthrobs of the captured people. They dimmed before our eyes. This was the first giant that fed on the hearts of the vanquished. That's why it became larger. Apparently someone tried to cross the swamp. The girl understood that now was not the right time to lie and do nothing. Before the monster devoured all the people nearby, Roxy began to rapidly concentrate the energy of light. As if Son Goku flew up to the level of the monster's face, he found this attempt very funny. The beauty did not plan to let the Titan do what he wanted, so she sent him aside with a precise blow. It was difficult to imagine that anyone other than the strongest gods could send such a giant flying. Perhaps the mission entrusted to them was initially impossible to complete. The girl's description hardly spoke of this. The girl they considered weak fought at the same level as the giant. This simply could not happen. However, it is not so easy to win against the monster. Having recovered, the Gato statue went on the attack. To win, Roxy planned to use his own characteristics against the giant. Despite his size, he was not just fast, every attack was unexpected. But the meteor strike will stop even such a monster. The girl put a lot of effort into it and launched it. It looks like it turned out to be very effective, but it's still not enough. We need something better. To kill this creature, it was necessary to destroy his heart, which means there was no point in thinking about a plan. Previously, Megan taught the girl this. 1 precise blow right on the target is the best argument against any giant. Roxy has been practicing attacks in this style for a long time. She is more accustomed to hitting with combinations. The only chance to break a strong cannonball, hit the target exactly. There will be no mistake or it won't work out. This time everything should have worked out. Concentrating a large amount of energy in her leg, the girl hit with a guillotine. The girl's training paid off. She managed to destroy the heart of this monster with just 1 precise blow. The defeated monster began to emit a large amount of energy, the first giant killed. It was too early to relax. The girl still had to save several people who had recently been absorbed. Catching 2 was a bit of a challenge, but the third was too far away and my hands were full. To save him, the main character jumped away from the falling rock and grabbed him with her teeth. The captain couldn't believe what he just saw. In addition to defeating the monster, she also saved her enemies. For a long time, the man could not understand the point of the criminal doing this. She did not run away that time. But to the girl's surprise, the lake continued to move. The creature did not die completely. The remaining piece of crystal still provided enough strength for it to maintain its shape. The main character did not want to give up halfway, so she went to get the primogems out of this terrible chest. The monster experienced fear. Its shape changed greatly. Its arms and legs were replaced with tentacles. Many sharp thorns attacked the girl. Regenerating after such wounds would not be easy. The ugly monster showed her crystal, as if mocking, or perhaps he simply did not have the opportunity to hide it. In any case, a solution had to be found to be able to defeat the monster now, before others were harmed. Roxy realized that she had again made a significant mistake. She had miscalculated, and now not only she would be held accountable for it. The monster wanted to show people fear before it swallowed their souls, because this way they would be tastier, according to him. The girl was ready to give up, but someone from outside intervened in time. The monster began to glow with a bright flame. A whirlwind of fire rose towards him, hitting only the enemy and not touching his allies, but a strong ability. Having received quite a bit of damage, the monster was finally ready to die. It seemed that it was too early for the girl to end her journey. The star inside was completely broken. The monster will not rise again, there is no doubt about it. The main character was amazed at the power. The giant of which she could not defeat turned into ordinary ashes. Only one among Odin's army was capable of this, the local pillar of flame. Its strength was absolute. Captain Cecilia Rubel was able to easily defeat the almost killed monster. Before Roxy had time to think, a ring of flame formed around her. There was nowhere to run. The warrior of fire turned to the main character. In the name of Odin's army, she arrested the girl. To protect people, Odin's army fights the giants. They are called the Army of Valhalla. The bodies of the warriors from this squad are like steel, and their hearts are as bright and warm as flames. These people were called the shields and spears of the world, because they were the strongest among all, second only to the supreme god. Each of them is the best in their field. All titles were issued personally by Odin himself. So many of them are loyal. The situation in which the main character found herself was quite serious. Her condition was critical. At her best, it's unlikely she would even stand a chance against the fire warrior, let alone take the fight now. However, it was impossible to let such a wanted criminal go, so Cecilia was not going to make concessions. Like fiery arrows, the captain's blows pursued Roxy, their speed, accuracy, and damage being too great. Even without touching the target, the flame burned it, gradually reducing the risk of missing the target to a minimum. The girl planned to jump into the crevice and escape, but they were already waiting for her there with a special device. It was not possible to dodge this in a timely manner, so the main character was captured. To be safe, the soldiers also tied the box with chains so that Roxy could not be missed. The capture was completed. Now it was possible to head to the base. The girl's condition only worsened. It was impossible to concentrate the energy of the sun inside this box, so it was impossible to heal the wounds. The fire warrior asked not to resist, because once inside there was no way to get out without outside help. The cage was made specifically for the main character. It does not allow light to pass through, and a special rune is inscribed on top. In addition, the material was chosen such that an ordinary person would not be able to destroy it on his own. When the capture was completed, the man who had been rescued earlier turned to the girl to make a report. He said that Roxy, risking herself, saved the lives of him and several soldiers. It was hard to believe. The girl was interested in whether the lieutenant's words were intended to insult the army or Odin personally. If not, there was no point in raising this topic anymore. The situation was more complicated than the guy thought. It was impossible to say whether the girl was justly accused. The path ahead was not close. The convoy slowly but surely moved towards the fortifications. Suddenly on the way, someone attacked the cage and the soldier, and many explosions followed. All except the last explosion were not strong. They could stun temporarily, but no more. Playing Mad Max wasn't much fun. The girl could complain later when Aldwin saved her. The guy came to repay what Roxy once did. Now it was his turn to save the girl. The sabotage turned out to be well planned. The guy prepared everything to retreat and save the main character. By hooking the rope into many trees, Aldwin managed to keep Roxy's camera from falling. A group of soldiers followed on the heels of the young man. The plan was very risky, but if it worked, it would be worth it. Earlier, the girl showed many different things that you can make with your own hands. If you had the skills, you could create a bridge yourself, a descent from a mountain, and much more. Although his friend used Aldwine to make her training easier, it taught him a lot. Every time Roxy thanked him, he felt proud and responsible. As soon as we received information from Jack that everyone knew the girl's location, the guy ran as fast as he could. However, even so, he failed to make it in time. He had to help the girl out, but it was too dangerous to go head on. The woman with the red shield on her back was of high rank. He hardly had a chance to defeat her in battle. The guy was amazed at Roxy's ability to find trouble. Like a magnet inside, there is no other way to explain it. Aldwine hid his presence as carefully as he had trained himself to do so. Any noise could give him away. It was obvious where they would take the girl, so the guy took a shortcut and began to prepare everything to rescue Roxy. The plan was born quickly enough. All that was left was to figure out where to get the necessary materials. Not wanting to waste a minute, the young man immediately moved in the right direction. The bridge they built helped them get ahead of the soldiers. No one knew about it because it appeared relatively recently. There were several options, but after brainstorming with all his tulpas, the guy chose the best one in his opinion. Preparing the traps took some time, but if the young man's calculations were correct, then he had enough time. It was a big deal, so the young man used everything he could get his hands on to make sure everything worked out. The guy owed a lot to the movie Home Alone. The traps were indeed very effective. Even if the plan was quite detailed, if you make just one mistake, everything could end in disaster. Aldwine understood this, so he continued to work despite his condition. It was necessary. For greater safety, the young man destroyed the bridge they had assembled. Now almost everything is ready. Everything went without any difficulties. The only thing that the young man could not foresee was the action of one soldier. The man ran up and grabbed the cart that was being transported by air. Aldwine asked him not to be so persistent. However, the soldiers cannot release the cart now, otherwise he would quickly end up at the bottom of the gorge. The tactics were simple. To change direction, the young man cut the rope at the right moment. Even though Omnium wasn't here, they managed to deliver the target to the right place. Now there was another guy with them. Aldwine wanted to open the doors, but the soldier did not give him such an opportunity. The boy promised that this time he would definitely protect the main character, regardless of the consequences for him. However, our boy did not predict one thing. The captain landed behind them and was ready to interrupt the escape. The young man was recognized as a traitor because he tried to help the most wanted criminal in the world escape. The fire warrior was already planning to finish off Aldwine, but having accumulated enough energy, Roxy was able to knock out the great. Flashes of lightning began to strike in all directions. No one understood what exactly was happening. The more time passed, the stronger the pressure became. The main character definitely did not plan to give up. The captain tried to contain the force that opposed her, but she hardly succeeded. When the blow was finally repelled, it destroyed several rocks before descending. The one who returned on time was the girl's mentor. Megan apologized that she had been gone for so long. She also thanked Aldwine for organizing all this. He had bought enough time. The guy was glad that his mission ended in success, because if Megan was here, Roxy was in no danger. The man whom the main character saved recognized Megan. She was surprised by this. But the fire warrior added that not a single person in the army of Valhalla could afford to forget Megan's name. 17 years earlier, there had been an incident at the center, which is still considered the army's biggest failure. Megan led the rebellion. Her strength was so great that over time the nickname Sun-Pierced stuck to her. Confidence, strength, and strategic intelligence, as well as a flower mark on the head. Not many remember those times personally. However, no one will allow themselves not to know such a person. The captain was amazed by Megan's strength. It was a great honor to meet her. But Megan was not one who likes to talk. She invited the fire warrior to show himself in action, and not just chat. The captain seemed to doubt herself, wondering why such a person was in this place. Roxy's mentor has had many nicknames, mostly known for being able to break through the divine barrier. She could confidently be called the most dangerous enemy, even more powerful than the ebony warrior. Even standing in Megan's presence was problematic, let alone attacking first. However, it was impossible to simply run away, so the captain decided to release all her power. She sent a man for help, intending to detain the legendary fighter. The rune on top of this chamber is called the Sinner's Rune and has several effects. The first is that the steel becomes stronger. The second does not allow anyone to do anything from the outside. The captain was not going to wait and began to attack Megan, seeing that she was distracted. If someone tries to break the cage, the person inside will suffer damage. In order not to endanger the children, the mentor moved them further away, taking the blow from the fire warrior. Aldwine and Roxy were worried about Megan, but it seemed that such weak fire could not defeat her. The main character continued to call the teacher. During the time they spent training, the girl became very attached. The battle promised to be too global. It was impossible to miss this, but the soldier had to carry out the order. Having attacked with the strongest techniques, the captain was surprised that she did not notice the invulnerable object sign. She didn't even manage to scratch Megan, although that was enough to defeat many giants. The battle continued to become more and more colorful, and now a fiery tornado was flying across the battlefield. The guys were amazed because you definitely can't escape such a series of blows completely unscathed. The captain no longer felt the overwhelming presence. She put the blade away, thinking that was all. However, as soon as the fire warrior turned away, the flames that had been raging for some time were broken by lightning strikes. But Megan still had to salute. Few people could even inflict such damage on her. The mentor was not going to give it his all, but it was worth teaching the newcomer a lesson. Otherwise, he would make the same mistake again in the future. Like an Akuma, Megan appeared in front of the captain and sent her flying with one small punch. It became obvious that Roxy had not even seen half of her teacher's strength, let alone fought at 100%. The force of the blow was hundreds of times higher than the one used by the captain. The winner was obvious. But before Roxy and Aldwine could celebrate their victory, their teacher was wounded by a sword. Megan's only weakness was that she suffered a serious injury 17 years ago, after which she lost the ability to regenerate any damage, so even though the woman had strength, she was mortal. But like a true Giga Chad, the mentor asked the captain what advantage she received from this information. After all, even without her regeneration, Megan was several heads taller than anyone in the army. The fire warrior was sent flying. This was surprising, because before no one could survive after this technique. The captain gained significant advantages. Then she decided to switch to Roxy to gain an advantage. The sinner's cage was a universal instrument of imprisonment. It was impossible to escape from it. By trying to destroy the cage, it was possible to purposefully reduce the hit points of the one who was inside. Now the main character was being held hostage by the captain, despite the order to bring her alive. This did not bother the girl. Even though the situation was not in their favor, Megan convinced Roxy not to give up until the very end. Earlier during lessons, the girl had already heard that if you raise your body temperature, your performance increases. The fact that only the main character's hands turned into wood after contact with fire confirms the words of the mentor. The stronger a girl becomes, the higher her resistance to heat, so don't give up so easily. The mentor's words inspired the main character. She, like Simon, in whom Kamina believed, decided to try. However, despite the girl's determination, the captain was not going to lose just like that. The girl's mark gradually began to awaken, its power growing with each petal that appeared on her forehead. Unwilling to accept her fate, Roxy tried to destroy the cage in which she was imprisoned. The captain was amazed that it was even possible to destroy such a structure, not to mention the fact that Roxy was a newbie. Confidence in her abilities prompted the main character to increase her characteristics more and more. Once the fifth petal appeared, breaking the cage was no longer a problem. Now Roxy has entered the fray, intending to avenge Megan's injury. Having gone through brutal training, defending her principles and meeting an enemy stronger than her, the girl received a LVL up. She still had not reached the level of her mentor, but now she could stand up for herself and her dear people. The fire was destructive for their clan, because as soon as a person with a mark touched the fire, his body turned into a golden tree. The captain knew about this, and also understood that Roxy's strength was not enough to win now. Megan might have wanted to intervene, but her condition was not the best, so she was unlikely to help. Confident in her victory, the captain sheathed the blade. Did the main character really lose again? The fire warrior held back her power so as not to turn the girl into a tree, otherwise it would cause trouble. To get out of the ice cave, the captain simply burned a way out in front of her. The captain was sure that she had lost too much time, so she should have returned quickly. She was lucky that Megan was not serious initially, in which case survival would have been very problematic. Aldwin tried to stop the woman. He hugged Roxy and did not allow her to be pulled forward. The appearance of a weakling like a boy greatly angered the captain. She believed that if you were lucky enough to survive, then you need to run away. The young man tried to convey to the soldier that all the sins on the girl's account were just fiction. In reality, everything was different. Earlier, after he saw the flyer, Aldwin decided to ask the girl about what happened. The story was incredibly sad. Just because of who the girl was born, her fate was made so cruel. Knowing the truth, Aldwin could no longer remain on the sidelines, so he tried to help the girl. He doubted that he was really useful, but Roxy was getting stronger and he was happy about it. The captain did not understand what exactly the guy expected from her, because she was simply following orders. But as soon as the girl was distracted, the main character's blow practically got her. The girl's strength grew every minute. Roxy's main weapon was taijutsu, but she had no training with a sword. Just like against Luffy, the best way to defeat her is with a blade or spear. Aldwin was very worried about his friend, but she convinced him that she would return this time with victory. This time the girl decided to really show everything she was capable of, otherwise it would be too boring. The rate of concentration of solar energy increased significantly after the awakening of the mark, and her mentor exhaled, because if her student could not master this technique, then it was a shame. It's all in Roxy's hands now, and she's in the best shape she's been in 2 years. But even though the piano in the bushes really made the girl stronger, it was still not enough to win. The main character was ready for the consequences that would come at the end of the battle. Now she only needed victory. In turn, the captain also did not plan to give up her position. She fulfilled her duty and defended the principals. The speed of Roxy's attacks was so high that she simply split the sword in half, preventing her from raising it. As soon as the girl inflicted damage on her opponent, the warrior of fire became more serious, raising her temperature. Roxy used her body's peak temperature, so she damaged it without being able to hold back. Rukia's Bankai worked on the same principle, but Aldwin was worried about whether the girl would wake up. Then Megan suggested that the depletion of light was to blame. All reserves were spent and there was not enough for restoration. Returning with a report to Odin, the warrior of fire told everything in great detail. One listened to the girl and said that capturing the Golden Tree family was important, but protecting his children was also a priority. Roxy made a mistake when she decided to rebel against Odin. He thought so, because now his hands are free. The artifact continued to attract him, but the main character stole it from the Supreme God and now must pay for it. The lieutenant hurried to return with a report, but was informed that Captain Rubel had already returned. He hurried to his captain to find out how things were going and whether the criminal had been captured. But as soon as the lieutenant saw the fire warrior, he noticed that she had been wounded during the battle. The guy was surprised by this, because the girl was one of those soldiers who never received even a scratch. Realizing that the main mistake was made by him, the lieutenant was ready to bear responsibility. However, the captain insisted that he forget about this situation and return to his work. Rubel said that the fault of her subordinates is her fault in the first place. so she is the one who will bear responsibility. The more information the captain learned about Roxy, the more she began to doubt the capture order. It was impossible to go against Odin, but all that Rubel managed to learn from her subordinates, and in battle, they said that the girl was innocent. The girl reached the throne room. Odin was already waiting for her report. He was disappointed. The fire warrior was one of those people you could rely on, but she failed the mission. Rubel admitted her guilt without even trying to justify herself. She was smart, even if it was behind her hot-tempered character. Odin was interested in why they let the main character go. She could hardly stand up to the elite of the army. Then the captain explained that Rebel Megan was also with the girl. Odin's Nen began to get out of control. The eerie aura of the god put great pressure on the fire warrior. Rubel's face changed greatly. She was afraid to even raise her eyes. The supreme god thought that she had survived, but for 17 years there was not even news anywhere in the world. Then the chief asked whether the captain received these injuries from the former rebel. Rubel explained that while she was temporarily incapacitated by Megan, it was Roxy who did most of the damage. One was surprised someone like Roxy was able to leave a few scratches on the dragon's scales. In addition, Megan is looking after the girl, which only complicates their situation. Once again, the supreme god was faced with problems due to a few undesirable people. The boss ordered Captain Rubel to leave. Now this task will be transferred to someone else. However, the girl insisted that she be allowed to deal with this on her own. One said that if a girl wanted to become stronger, she should have completed the task. After finishing the conversation, God noticed that his body was gradually withering, as if all living things were with the onset of winter. He had not eaten golden apples for too long. Someone behind him started a conversation with God. The creature was surprised by the situation. The god Loki standing behind unnerved the main god, but the creature himself enjoyed it. The god of deceit and deception maintained his image. He loved to take part in various intrigues. However, Odin was not happy with what was happening. Besides, Loki was partly right. The main god was wrong. Loki warned the supreme god not to turn a blind eye to the main character. She still has great potential. There was a possibility that Roxy had already surpassed the level of Odin's children, so he had to make sure that Ragnarok didn't start. However, Odin was sure that the girl survived solely because she was very lucky. The adopted son told his father not to make a fatal mistake, otherwise it would be too late to solve it later. While Roxy was recovering, her friend did everything to be even more useful in the next fight. Unfortunately, the records of the Witchers have not been preserved, so he could have greatly improved his characteristics. But all that remains for him now is to make special tips and practice shooting. The sun began to rise, so the young man hurried to return and check the girl's condition. The girl had been unconscious for more than 2 weeks. A fight with the strongest warriors turned out to be a bad idea. Megan had not left her student's side since the moment they climbed onto this rock. It is likely that she felt guilty for what happened. Too many problems were caused by her indecisiveness. The guy understood that he would hardly be useful as a combat unit, so he tried to help the squad in a different way. Recording, cooking, experimenting, and tactics. Finding his place was Aldwain's main goal. Often he had to ask the teacher to help with his tests, but Megan almost never agreed. The guy's key development was a doll. According to his idea, he wanted to attract a giant as bait. He had never seen the second one in person before, so at the right moment he would not be able to find the weak point or understand the principle of the technique. However, even after explaining what exactly he wanted to do, he still received refusal after refusal. When he finally managed to convince the teacher, he began to sketch a monster that crawled out of the water in a second. While the girl trained her body and spirit for days on end, the young man developed other characteristics. Thanks to his theories, the girl better understood what exactly she should do, and in which direction to move. Perhaps only Roxy understood the hard work Aldwain was doing, but even so, he was too naive. The guy's drawings gave confidence to the main character. They were best friends. After the training, the girl also talked about her ideas and tactics that she had developed. They laughed a lot when they remembered their first battle together, when they barely managed to avoid failure. The inventor came up with new ways to defeat that same giant. Oldwine was very worried because there was no guarantee that the girl would wake up in the near future. He blamed himself for a lot because he didn't use buffs before going to the boss. But before the guy could finish his sad monologue, Roxy opened her eyes. She did not believe that she had slept for 2 whole weeks, although she was so hungry that anything was possible. Soon the guys decided to continue training, even though the girl became stronger. She would not be able to defeat a strong enemy yet. The mentor's words awakened the desire to train, so Roxy put down the food and wanted to leave, but it didn't work out. But before a month had even passed, new troubles appeared on the trail of the main criminal. The master quickly noticed that there were several people outside. It was clear that they were enemies. When the guys asked Megan what happened, she explained the situation and that they should be prepared for anything. The woman decided to go and figure it out on her own, so as not to put her student at risk again. As soon as we ran out into the street, all the hiding guys had already been caught. The three who managed to find the girl were the same people who were saved by the girl earlier. Soldiers of the army of Valhalla, Megan was surprised that they knew each other. The hunter lost his temper because these people were planning to kill his girlfriend. This could not be forgiven. Before coming here, the guys prepared well, collecting information and equipment. When the main character asked to get closer to the point, the soldiers replied that they had come to give an invitation. They invited Roxy and Aldwine to join them. They did not expect to hear such nonsense. The proposal seemed so strange at first glance that the girl's face turned into Kora-sensei's face. The decision was obvious because strength, speed, strategic intelligence, the girl was strong in everything. They also called the young man, but he immediately made it clear that he was not interested. The situation was quite strange, because even though they were enemies, now they were all having lunch together with rice. Plus, the kids really liked the sauce that Aldwine adds, so they were even more eager to get it. The guys continued to call the hunter to them, but the guy made it clear that he hated Odin. But the soldier did not see any problem in this. What happened did not concern him, but he understood a lot at that time. The main character was definitely not capable of what was attributed to her. Those who survived the battle also think so. Kyle is a lieutenant in the Valhalla army, and the opportunity to introduce himself has not come for a long time, so he decided to do it now. Next, a young man with ashen hair introduced himself. His name was Lime, and the last person in their temporary squad was a guy named Noah. The girl was sure that she had seen these two earlier. Then the lieutenant reminded her that it was they who were saved from the giant. The two served under Kyle, so the man was truly grateful that Roxy helped. Owen, the third guy who couldn't survive the encounter with the swamp monster, was also grateful. The soldier's family was asked to convey their gratitude for the fact that even though there was no chance to save him alive, at least his body was returned. When the three guys saluted, the girl, like some cat, was very scared. Aldwine was glad that his best friend saved several more people. Gradually, her dream was coming true. They chatted for a long time by the fire, talking about different things. It seems the girl was right. They are the same ordinary people. The storm had subsided, so the guys had to go back before they encountered it again. The girl wanted to guide the new Nakama, but it seems that she will not be able to assemble her own pirate crew. The soldiers explained that they couldn't meet someone while being with a criminal. They would get a lot of trouble. But the guys were glad that they were removed from the mission to capture the main character. Now they won't have to become enemies. Before leaving, the guys recognized Megan. The girl was surprised that she was still so popular. They talked about how they were fans of her. They wanted to shake hands with the living legend, although the woman's reaction was ambiguous. The guys promised to repay everything if they met the main character and her group again. Having received feedback, Roxy realized that she had chosen the right direction to move, because she could save others. Turning around one last time, Kyle told Aldwine to come back any time if he changed his mind. Standing in front of this swamp again, the girl realized that she could overcome it now. It seems that the meeting with my sister will take place very soon, and several years have passed since that moment. I wonder how Lily will react when she sees her sister and her changes. She was waiting for this. But before the girl had time to return to her thoughts, her friend came running and said that they had encountered a problem. Megan has disappeared somewhere again, and this is a bad sign. She always disappears before problems arise. Returning to the cave, the main character began to ask Megan why she was leaving. Then the woman said that the girl's strength had already reached the level where she had nothing more to teach. Now the main character's strength will depend only on the experience she receives and the practice she performs. The skills acquired while working in the market came in handy during the adventure. Aldwine felt that he was finally useful. The guys didn't want to leave because the guy cooked so deliciously and the girl had a good appetite. Now that the teacher has left, everyone must go their own way to improve their skills. To the surprise of the young man, his best friend insisted that he join the army of Valhalla. The young man's skills were at a high level. There he would be able to gain experience and find true comrades. It looks good. They promised to meet again. There are too many One Piece-like moments in this anime. The idea of joining the army seemed more logical, but doubt still haunted the boy. Jack came across the young man and then asked him for forgiveness because he really did something stupid. He did not hope that the guy would forgive him, but he did not know that everything would turn out this way for the girl. Their conversation was short-lived, but the guy was not angry with his old friend. Now he looks at things differently. Now that they had resolved this conflict, the young man was only more convinced that Roxy was right. He needed to go. Jack asked where Aldwine was going and said that it didn't matter, because this was the last choice left. The young man had a question that he wanted to ask the teacher. It was too important. Then the guy said that he wanted to follow Megan wherever he went, because this was the kind of adventure he dreamed of. Roxy was shocked because now their path lies in one direction, and the teacher did not understand why she needed this at all. Previously, the guy seemed to be living in demo mode, but when he met the main character, he finally understood what he should do. He will gain courage and experience, making killing giants much easier for everyone for the next encounter. But even though she wasn't sure that the guy would like this path, she was still happy for him. Megan warned that her life is filled with dangers, and they may be too heavy a burden for the guy. Togla Aldwain said that he could continue his work only by living in such an environment, even if it was dangerous. But even though he doesn't like the idea of dying, the young man doesn't plan to sit on the sidelines either. Otherwise, everything will be in vain. Still, they will travel together further. Everyone liked this idea, although Megan had a condition. The guys can help her with her work as long as they don't interfere. For her, it's no more difficult than wearing a bird in her hair. Returning to the place where Megan had spent the most time in recent years, she showed Asha's tree to her daughter. She told Roxy the story of how they grew apart for all these years, and what happened afterwards. More than 17 years have passed since they planted the tree, and the girl also told her mentor about Odin's words. The main character was not a brilliant detective, but she easily guessed that her mother was a rebel earlier. Then the woman told about the war that had happened earlier, how she and her mother fought against Odin and his regime. The captain's words were true. Last time she lost half of her heart, which slowed down her regeneration. Aldwain came to complain about how many meals he had to cook since they ate more than Natsu. The young man was going to go to the village for groceries and asked not to go anywhere without him. The girl asked why the teacher was leaving again and whether they could meet again someday. There was nothing left to hide. Then the teacher decided to tell the story to the end at the Tree of Promises. The wound should have put an end to Megan's life, but Asha saved her by giving away part of her power to create half of the heart. The mentor's weakness was that as soon as her circulation was disrupted just a little, her strength disappeared completely. Although the rebels fought for a valiant cause, the battle with Odin was a nightmare, his power far beyond comprehension. Many lost their lives then. Some were disappointed after surviving. In any case, everyone lost then. All members of the clan were caught in a trap and are now being held somewhere inside Odin's fortress. The main character had no idea that the rebellion against Odin turned into such a tragedy for people. They are called rebels, but they fought for justice and honor, so this is more of an insult. However, all is not lost for this world. The fire of Asha's soul continues to burn inside Roxy. Zeal, desires, character, and the way the girl sees justice are all the same as her mother's. It is impossible to forget that day. Everyone who took part received this stigma, which burns every time they meet with the past. The fairy tale did not speak at all about what needs to be done for resurrection. It spoke about the light of freedom. Therefore, Megan leaves to achieve what she once decided to give up due to defeat. However, Roxy is different from them. She should follow her dream to the end. She has something in her that they lacked then. When they first met, the teacher mistook the girl for being completely stupid, without experience and knowledge. But soon Roxy proved not only to her teacher that she, like no one else, deserves to bear this burden. The girl's strength is not only that she is the main character of the story, her confidence and desire to change something. This makes her special. As soon as any wall appears in the way, it is as if Midoriya Izuku will destroy it with his foot. Megan was pleased that she kept her promise. Now she is proud of the girl and wishes her good luck in all her endeavors. Wishing his student a safe journey, the legendary hero left the group and went about his business. The time has come to go our own ways. This flashback showed us what the path of the main character was. Roxy was worried that the next time she met, her best friend would be so cool that she wouldn't be able to talk to him. After saying goodbye to Aldwain, the main character wanted to give her teacher some hug therapy. However, it seems that the infinity around Megan was too strong, and no one was able to get close to her. The guy asked the girl to eat normally, and also to hide her face or she would definitely get into trouble. The teacher told the students that no one knows when exactly, but the moment will come when they will meet again. But next time the girl promised to return with her sister, and then introduce her to them. After receiving guidance and saying goodbye to her loved ones, Roxy was ready to begin a new journey. The young man and Megan argued that the girl had chosen a difficult dream for herself because it was too responsible for her. However, even so, no one doubted that she could cope with this burden. The girl's kindness changed everything around her. As they say, the most dangerous power is the ability to make friends everywhere. Once upon a time, Roxy talked about how they climbed through abandoned libraries collecting books for sale. Their group was smart. They and their sister climbed inside while Dino and Asha remained outside, monitoring the situation. These spy missions not only helped them live, but were also very interesting, and soon she would be able to travel with Lily again. They were a real family that helped each other, supported, and helped out. That's how they were built. Previously, when a girl was scared or cold, there was always someone who helped her out of this trouble. Although Megan seemed callous on the surface, she was happy to hear stories of how much fun Asha and her children had. Together with Aldwain, the teacher went one way and Roxy went another. Everything will definitely change. Especially for the main character, because now, in addition to her sister, she decided to save the rest of the clan. However, even though the teacher said that the Earth clan was located behind the swamp, she did not give any map or instructions. All the supplies that her best friend gave her on the road have run out, and now she will have to look for food on her own. But while the girl's stomach howled with hunger, She remembered Megan, who once said something during training. The Earth Clan lived underground in a deep crevice, but there were no ideas at all on how to find it. All that was left was to search at random. The girl's kind words reached the mentor himself, although she did not understand that it was Roxy. While at the top, the girl heard someone's voice. They were people, a great chance for the girl. She hurried to go out to them, but the men were afraid of Roxy, as if she were some kind of ghost. Having asked for forgiveness, the girl tried to find out how she could get to the Earth Clan that was in these places. However, the residents asked who exactly the girl was talking about. They had miners, people working underground. At that time, Minecraft did not yet exist. It was possible to farm resources only on the street. The men asked if the girl came from a certain collector. Roxy decided to play along. It was strange that the collector did not say anything. The girl explained that she had received only general instructions. The guys promised to take the girl, but walking in such a place is dangerous. Many giants have been seen lately. And Roxy had no weapons at all, which only alarmed the local residents more. 2 years ago, Megan said one interesting thing. You can only get to the Earth Clan by defeating that monster. After thinking a little, Roxy realized that these people were the Earth Clan, probably because a couple of days ago there was still a giant here. One of the men said that the girl's face looked very familiar. Perhaps they had already met before. The frozen forest was a dangerous place, but traveling with company wasn't that scary. The people led the girl to a place that matched the description of the entrance to the Earth Clan's hideout. The wall was camouflage because if you rub the wall, it becomes clear that it is artificial. The place, perfectly hidden behind fake walls, served to hide something important. At least the guys thought so. The more the men talked about this place, the more it seemed that they were not the ones who were needed. Having reached the right place, the guys sat down in the shelter and began to wait. They asked the girl not to tell anyone about this place. Their guns were loaded with a special poison that could put the victim to sleep without harming his health. After the words were spoken, it became clear that these people are hunters, and not the people of the Earth Clan. They are dangerous, but at the same time useful. Suddenly, the rock ahead began to change. In the distance, behind the barrier, the entrance to their city could be seen. The main character was amazed, because she had only seen something like this in books about gnomes who hammered iron and drank drinks. A man dressed in a red robe emerged from the cave. In the book that the mentor burned, there was an appearance of this people. However, the girl did not remember him, although even so it was clear that this was the person she needed. The underground resident acted carefully. Before starting his work, he looked around. Apparently, his task was to remove stones that were mined during the expansion of the territory. The girl wanted to say hello and ask for help. Then the man behind him fired a shot. It was impossible to simply ignore this. The main character should have taken the side she stood for in this situation. Even though the poison had an effect, the resident of the underground city hastened to attack in order to throw the enemy back. This hardly frightened the hunters. They wanted to continue, but Roxy stopped them. This was what they called mining. They literally captured those who knew how to create a rock. Without thinking twice, the main character took the side of the Earth Clan. It is not in her principles to offend those who are weaker. She made it clear that the villains should leave quickly. If they do not want to study Mars first, then Elon Musk. The girl asked the Earth Clan member to trust her. She understood how things were and could help. Frightened by the girl's behavior, the new acquaintance from the dungeon hastened to throw Roxy away. She was considered a friend of those who kidnapped other residents. For her, this was a great insult. While the hunters were trying to mine another item for the collector, a giant approached them. The situation was dangerous. It was necessary to act as quickly and accurately as possible, otherwise someone else could die. The main character rushed forward. She could cope with this monster. Now her strength is more than enough. One blow was enough to destroy the crystal inside this monster. Surprisingly, it turned out to be weak. The girl understood that this was the best moment to escape, but she could not move. Something big was approaching. A moment later, Roxy, another giant, also felt this. She had never encountered anything like this before. The ice underfoot quickly turned into small shavings. This monster was much stronger than the previous one. Roxy again came to the defense of the man from the caves, because it is unlikely that in such a state she would be able to defend herself. But before the girl had time to do anything, the giant's crystal was destroyed. What happened was unclear, but the influence of the Earth Clan was obvious. The landscape had changed too much. Even if this titan was not half as strong as the monster from the swamp, not everyone could kill him so easily. The boy standing above mistook Roxy for a miner. He promised that she would die here. The guy's appearance raised many questions. He had a huge stone hand and crystals all over his body. But he looked truly strong. The main character didn't even know if she had a chance against him. Without trying to figure it out, the boy immediately attacked Roxy, using his big hand to do so. The girl managed to put up protection but was quickly slammed into the wall, high speed and power. Thanks to the earth technique, she was also pinned against the wall with no way to get out of this state on her own. The main character asked to wait because she was not a minor, and besides, she had an important matter. However, the defender of their city did not even plan to listen, believing that there was no point in it. Everyone they previously caught said the same thing, in order to avoid deserved punishment. Is there any point in finding out? The boy caught everyone who was mining this time. He planned to just leave them because if not the cold, then the giants would solve the problem. Roxy continued to insist that all the wounded needed immediate attention, including the girl. The poison inside slowly spread, but the young man did not even want to hear about it from the one who introduced the poison. Hearing the words of the men, he changed his mind and decided to deal with them on his own. They made him too angry.